it's as physical as the real world. Consciously speaking, you're there.
Mm.
You're really experiencing everything that you would experience if you were awake. And the same thoughts that I have, like, the same wild thoughts and the same personality. I'm the same person as I get out, and so that's the wildest part of these experiences is the more conscious you become inside of it, the more you start realizing, man, like there's this like almost no difference once you get out. Darius, super
Yeah.
glad to be here, man. Oh my gosh, bro.
Yeah, thanks. James, yeah? Sure,
Yes.
for sure. Yeah. Welcome, James.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. It's good. I mean, when you were on the workshop that I was holding, you were telling me you had 4 out of bodies. And
Yes, man.
I was like, well, I gotta get you on. Why don't you just start off with background? Like just like you in general, and then just
Okay.
go right into the experiences and how long you've been working with the method so far and all that. So yeah,
All
just
right, my man.
go right into it.
All right. So I'm James in the United States, and super happy to be here because I this stuff is like life changing. I'm truly life changing in all ways, shapes, and forms. Um, so my background, okay, I come from an interesting background. I grew up in a cult, Jehovah's Witnesses, and I got out of the religion recently. Had a few traumatic experiences over the past 3 years, and it's made me question reality, life, and also my religious beliefs. And growing up in for so long indoctrinated by a religion that was mainly geared towards fear and manipulation, that led me to have some traumas that I needed to deal with, and it made me just go on this path when I finally decided to let it go about a year ago. And things started happening to me that have always been happening to me. So, as far as like sleep paralysis, I've always experienced sleep paralysis at least 2 to 3 times a year. Um, the ones that I remember probably like 14 years ago were kind of like just scary experiences of not being able to move, and I just didn't understand why it was happening to me. It kept on happening to me often. And I remember when I was a teenager telling my mom, that's my niece in the background, so if you hear her randomly scream,
Oh, you're all good. We don't hear anything. Yeah, all good.
good, good. So it was having to experiencing the sleep paralysis. um I did feel presence before in the room, and I couldn't see them, but it was like I the anything that was supernatural, growing up in that religion, it was always considered demonic. So I was like, man, I remember going to somebody who was like the equivalent of a pastor in our religion, in our church, and they just told me that, yeah, you must have watched some movies that like made has brought these presents in the room.
Mm.
But I remember these presents, it was just they're just like chilling. They weren't doing anything, and
Yeah,
I was just like, what is going on here? But I always had lucid dreams. Very very like I just remember like just having some powerful ones of like just people saying, "Hey, we love you, we miss you." This really
mm,
like you know really loving dreams, and I was like there I remember during those times I was like kind of depressed, and this is back in the day, in my teenage years, just feeling depressed off of the pressure of being in that religion, and living that lifestyle, and being in such a strict environment, and constantly being looked at for everything that I did. I just remember those dreams and things and beings like saying certain messages to me. So I remember stopping it. The more I progressed inside of the religion, and the more I like stopped it, stopped those experiences from happening. Which reminds me of your experiences when I first heard it recently, of you know, just stopping at 16 and stopping those things from happening, those that contact from happening. Same thing for me. I just said, you know, hey, I don't, I think this is demonic, and I gotta stop whatever is going on.
Yeah.
But that I never forgot those experiences, and it didn't happen till in the last 3 years. You know, where major events happened to me that were shocking, were traumatizing. That I started like, you know, as soon as I renounced my religious beliefs, I started getting very lucid again. I started studying numerology and astrology and
Do you do you
understanding.
do you think that that's possibly because all of these things started to kick back on when you walked out of religion because you walked out of fear?
Yes, yes. And
There you
so,
go.
you know,
Yeah.
which is, you know, why this is my next OB. You know, I'll get into that in just a
Yeah.
moment.
Okay. Yeah.
But I got out of the sphere because I no longer believed that, you know, there was a one God with a that was judging me constantly over every aspect of my life, including my personal life, my intimate life. Like it just, you know, once you let go of that fear, you're able to, you know, experience beautiful things. And those dreams started happening to me um, just like a year ago. And I started being more open-minded to learning, you know, different practices like, you know, astrology, numerology. Um, and I would follow some people that, you know, would talk about it, but there's always this little twang of fear. There's always this little like things behind it that kind of turned me off from, you know, exploring it even further. But I felt that there was still a need, just on how I was built, to believe that there was a much higher version of me, that somehow, you know, this can't be it, you know, because when you leave a religious like that, um, it can take you down a very dark place. And I didn't want to go down that path. I wanted to see if there was still something out there. So I started meditating, and I started watching videos on, you know, NDEs. I just found them fascinating. And I'm like, what is it that they would see and all these things? I'm like, man, there's really got to be something out there, because there's consistency in those stories. There's always, you know, like these, it's like, you know, these alien experiences, they're happening. You know, these people are talking about it, and it
Yep.
is proof that there's got to be something out there. So I had heard about, like, you know, the CIA Gateway program, and it took me back to when I was 16, that I wanted to do astral projection. And again, telling somebody that was like, you know, learning about it, they would shut me down. And, you know, I never revisited it. But like when the CIA files the gateway um, process that, you know, got leaked into the public, I read back into it, and I said, okay, that's pretty cool. I think I'm going to try that, because I've been trying every other things, and I just want to know what the soul is all about. And that led me down the rabbit hole on YouTube, and your video came up, your interview about the simulation ending, and it was
Yeah.
like, I was like, what, what is this? But I remember, dude, watching it. It was number one, like being black, and seeing another black man like leading the way in spirituality. I was like inspired. And I was like, okay, let me listen to this black Jesus right here. I'm like, this guy, man, he just reminds me of a black Jesus. I'm sorry, Darius. I just had to. I was like, man, the hair and everything. I was like, yo, I gotta listen to
Yeah.
this dude. And
Yeah.
so I'm in here, and I'm like, okay, I'm hearing you out. I'm like, yo, this dude's serious. This guy is serious about this. And I heard that interview like 3 times, and I just could not, like, I just wasn't the same.
Hmm.
I just, for 3 days, I was like, dude, what if what if this is reality? And I already started feeling familiar feelings of like, I've always known this, but I never wanted to, I had a hindrance because of the religion over me to not believe it. And finally, that not being there and not having any of the fears attached to it, I said, this is the number one skill that I need to know right now. And there were several confirmations, and I don't believe in all of astrology or all of numerology, because it comes into, like, from just learning from how you conduct things and how you speak about certain truths and experiences, that not everybody, people people will teach things that are distorted in ways, and then they'll carry it out, and it's just garbage. If there's fear in it, there's something wrong.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've learned how to discern of, like, okay, you know what, like, this year for sure, I know that I need to focus on my spirituality. So I'm going to learn the outer body experience to find the truth for myself. It took me watching several of your interviews to just say, all right, I'm going to buy. I'm just going to invest in the IDA, the IDA training. Everything just led down to me watching the workshop, and I decided to go ahead and begin in June to practice it. At least once a week. The first time I practiced it, I fell asleep. The second time I practiced it, I fell asleep again. The third time, I remember reaching a point in like 60 minutes in where I felt like my head and my heart were about to explode. I got very numb. I started panicking and freaking out because I'm like, I'm not moving, I'm not doing anything, but my body feels like it's in a furnace right now. My heart is like being like crazy, and I just never experienced anything as intense. Laying down like that, it was just really, it was too much, and I got to the point where I started feeling so much pressure in my head that I was like, I don't know if I'm doing this right. And like, I can't, I, and I watched the workshop, and I remember you saying, hey, just remain calm during that time. But it just automatically, I just said, no, abort, abort. And I just got out of it. Like, I just said, no,
Yeah.
no, I can't do this.
Yeah.
I wrote you an email, and you're like, hey, dude, that's perfectly fine. You're going to feel like you're having a heart attack, but you're not. And the
Yeah.
interesting part about it is when I said abort, I felt the numbness went away, and it just felt like nothing really happened. I didn't feel like, I felt like my body cooled down, and it was like
Right back to
weird. It
normal.
was
Yeah.
right back to normal. Nothing, like nothing happened. And I'm like, Jesus, what is this? Like, what is this thing? And so finally, what I understand from the methodology is that some things are going to happen that are that are not just that are related to the OBE, but also things that might be hitting in you as an individual. So I said, look, I really want to experience this. It's the fourth week. I'm going into it the fourth time, because I didn't want to do it every single day. I just wanted to do it once a week, and I ended up having to confront some fears. I'm like, what fears is it that I'm having? And the one fear that I'm having is I'm having a fear of the dark. I've always had it, and I've always slept with the light. you know, I'm like, I'm a grown ass man. I'm like, I don't need a light. But it was always a fear. And I realized that going in, I always went in kind of nervous because everything was just dark and I had to do this. And I also had a fear of beings in the room because, I just remember what that was like. Just a few people, it felt like a few people were in the room, and I was like, that's I don't I just had fears around it, like I felt creeped out.
So
So mhm.
you were sensing people in the room, one in the
Yeah,
sleeping
I
house.
was.
Yep.
Yeah, I was sensing them. And um it was at one point I heard a voice, and it was a woman, um in a very distinct, sweet voice. That's all I've heard her in dreams. I've heard her. I was starting to pick up like, hey, there's a specific being in here that it keeps on coming in, and it's phasing into into my reality. So um, the fourth time this is when it finally happened. Um, I went through the process. I started getting vibrations, and I had asked. I said, hey, I'm just gonna pray. If I feel some fear, I'm gonna pray to my aunt, who passed away when I was young, and I'm gonna tell her like, hey, tell everybody to wait for me outside. And I literally just said this. I don't know why, but I said, just tell everybody to wait for me outside. You be here, and I'm going to take this in a step to just help me get over these fears that I have. Like, be here, don't show up completely. Just, the advantage of being in the program is that you hear so many different experiences of people, and you hear the power that you have, especially the one video that you had about commanding your space and commanding your sovereignty, your power. And that's what I did. I just told those beings that are in the room. I don't know if it was me projecting them. I don't know if if it was actual beings. I just said, look, I'm going to command my space, and I'm going to say, let my aunt come forward and help me with this fear as I'm coming out. And I literally felt my soul eyes during that process of coming in like 60 minutes or 65 minutes in, and my soul eyes opened. There was a blue hue. My body was kind of whitish, like it was just very, very bright. And I remember just slowly like moving my shoulders just a little bit, but I still felt kind of attached to the body, and I saw kind of like the predator outline of the of the being. And next thing you know, I feel the sensation, the same sensation when you put your finger in your eye to take an eyelash out. And it just kept on going, and I felt it in the back of my head, and it just caressed something, but it felt like a click. And I was it was a mixture of fear and awe at the same time, but it was like, no, like I gotta stop this. Like whatever this is entering into my space. I don't know what this is. And I just said, abort, 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 abort. I went back in. I finally felt my body, the numbness kind of leaving my body, and I felt this sensation of my eyes opening, my physical eyes, and I said, this is a weird sensation. Like I had my eyes were open, but they are, I didn't feel my eyelids, but now I feel my eyelids actually opening up again.
Mm.
And I got up and I sat up. Now I'm not in I'm not in this process anymore. I'm out
Yep.
of it.
Yep.
But I felt this calmness and this surreal feeling that I belong in the dark, that the dark is mine. And I went into, I got up and I just just felt this peace. I went into the closet and I said, you know what, let me try something here. Because I think what happened was whatever was there, it turned off my fear of the dark. And I went into the closet and I sat in the closet in the pure pitch black, and I felt this peace.
Mm.
And I was like, holy shit, I got over this fear of the dark. I don't feel this scary sensation of the dark anymore. So I got out of the closet, laid back down. I said, I'm gonna try this again, and it didn't happen again. I felt exhausted, but I got up in the morning and I remember like I think I called in a being, whether it was my aunt, I don't know. Well, I don't know what it was, but it reached back into a point inside of my head, or my spiritual head, and turned off this blockage of the fear of the dark. And will never, like, that was my first ever, OBE experience with a being.
Yeah.
So the second experience, I'm going to try to like get into it real quick because I know I've been talking a lot. The second experience, I ended up um, going to sleep, doing the method, but again, waking up at night, sometime around or early in the morning, sometime around 4 o'clock. And I woke up, but I don't remember exactly like how I woke up or what, but I just remember doing this, the room was blue again.
Mm.
And I noticed like, okay, something's up here. The door was open, but it was pitch black. And I remember the door was closed. So that kind of freaked me out a little bit. I was like, okay, well, I don't know what's going on here. This door was closed when I went to sleep. I do remember that. And I hear this noise. It's like, it's the weirdest noise ever.
Oh, I couldn't necessarily hear the noise or the noise that you made.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the noise was, this is the weird,
Like a squeak.
yeah, it was like a straight up squeak.
Yeah.
I'm like, what is this?
Mm.
The only thing I was like, okay, the door's open. There's this weird squeak. I'm
Yeah.
like, yo, the Llorona is gonna come out of somewhere out of here. Like, so I was just like, I just freaked out. But I remember my body. I used to swim before,
Mm.
and I remember whenever I would hit a lap, I would do this, to push off the wall. There's a sensation because you're coming in head first to the wall. Then you tap your hands up against the wall, and then you bring your feet in and you push
Yeah.
back. I did this movement
Mm.
back to this laying motion, and I remember I'm like, that is very odd. How did I do that? And it felt like I was floating in water, and I got back, and then my body was like tense, and I got out of I woke back up, and the same sensation of my eyes coming
Mm.
back was there. And I realized as I got up that was an OBE.
Yep. Yep.
The
That's
noise,
you out of your body.
yeah,
Yeah.
that was out.
You know what the door was open in the out of body, and it was
Yes.
black. So
Yes.
when you're about to enter different dimensional spaces or enter gateways to access other things, portals typically come to you as black, and it's usually through a doorway. The many times that I've commanded to go somewhere, I would open up my door once out of the body, and it will look like that, like tarry black. That's a portal to
Yes.
access other spaces. And if there's beings there as well that you've called for help and assistance. So once the fear is gone, these beings will start to present themselves to you and assist you just to get you, to basically get you running. And then from
Yes.
there, it's like, there you go. But did that feel very familiar? Like that, when you are pushing back into your body, it's almost like it was a muscle, like a reflex
Yes.
almost. Yeah.
It's almost a reflex. It feels like, you feel like you feel like you're in you get back into a box. That's what
Mm.
it feels like. Like getting into the sensation that you had when you were a little kid, getting and spreading out into a box. That is the sensation that I get. And then my eye, like feeling my eyelids like for real, for real. Like, you know, I'm like, oh, okay, I feel that. So the first experience was of me actually opening my soul eyes. Let's call it a baby OB. You know,
Mm,
having progress with the method. It took me about 4 weeks to get to that point,
gotcha.
and I had asked specifically for, you know, for assistance to get to that point. The
Mm,
second one was me being in water, and you know, you mentioned that this apparently there was a portal that opened up in my room,
mm,
and I felt the sensation that I was like, you know, I got out of my body, but I got out in a way a swimmer would push back as he heads to a
yeah, yeah,
wall to
yep,
get through the lab.
yep,
The fourth one was practicing, you know, it was practicing the method. But again, I go to sleep, but I wake up at 3-ish in the morning. And this time I actually got out the body.
mm,
I was floating. I look back, I see my body, and I'm like, hell yes. I hear the freaking that weird noise. And I said, fuck that noise. And I literally go straight into the wall,
mm,
and I'm coming out. But I started like getting these jerking sensation where I'm just like, yo, okay, what is going on here? And I felt like I got crucified because I got too excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm out of the body and I'm getting out. And I felt the sensation of getting into, you know, going to the wall, heading out to the kitchen right
mm.
near the door outside. And I got too excited and I just got crucified. Like that's the best sensation that the best way I can describe it. It just, my hands just went, ugh, ugh, and it took me back. And I just felt my neck being like, you know, I was in sleep paralysis. And as I started feeling sensation, getting sensation back, I knew right then and there that 4 times I had confirmed to myself, like, hey, I'm having outer body experiences.
Yep.
I just got to get away from the body now. And I just got to get far away as possible to be able to like start accessing things and get that confirmation. So now I know the sensations that my you know, that my body, my physical body does whenever it's awakened, and
Yep.
then when my soul body is out, what it does. And so there's just weird noises and frequencies, which you cover in the program, which I love. That, you know, which it's, if anybody is needs more information, like I highly recommend this, because the more you're around it, it's going to take some practice, of course, some progress, but there are things in there that you will notice as you go through. There are little miniature confirmations as you go and you keep training with this. So I mean, those are my four outer bodies so far.
Yeah.
And
So then what was the third one again? So the fourth one is when you come out, you look at your body. What was the third one?
the third one was me hovering over
Yeah.
the body, but like in a swimming motion. It was scary in that sense, because the noise is what threw me off. I wanted to go through it, but like the noise threw me off.
I wouldn't
And
necessarily be concerned about any noise. The noises are just like different frequencies and stuff, especially when you start to shift out of the body, and certain colors, noises, and feelings and sensations are just
yes,
foreign to, because they don't necessarily exist here. Like you can't necessarily describe certain things. Well, you can,
yeah.
but it's harder, you know. And how did it feel when you were out? Was it as physical as a physical body, or did you feel that heaviness, denseness, realness, like you could touch
Yeah.
yours?
So the door, it felt solid, like the real door that I have, you
Mm,
know.
yeah.
But I say it in my mind, you can command density in it. Like I
Yeah.
just, as I went through, I felt it. I touched the door, felt like, you know, the same cool sensation of the metal of the door. But then I'm like, just go through it. And it turned into a staticky, gelatinous feeling.
Mhm.
But I was on a mission, man. I was trying to get out of that, just get through. So I felt the static
Yeah.
as I went through the door, but it didn't bother me. And as soon as I got excited that I went to the door and I'm out, I'm like, hey, and then it just the tongue happens and I go back. And so it's as physical as the real world. Consciously speaking, you're there.
Mm.
You're really experiencing everything that you would experience if you were awake. And the same thoughts that I have, like, the same wild thoughts and the same personality. I'm the same person as I get out, and so that's the wildest part of these experiences is the more conscious you become inside of it, the more you start realizing, man, like there's this like almost no difference once you get out.
No, no. I mean, that's why I coined the phrase "all the pleasures of physicality, no limitations."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, dude.
So
Absolutely. It's this is the most amazing thing, and the thing that I just recommend people like, there's all these meditations, there's all these things, there's all these predictions. Like you're going to all these people for help. And like for me, I'm trying to manifest something and change something in my reality. That's why it's really important for me to like practice this because I've seen these events, but a lot of these events that have happened to me, they are happening to me in a time to, where one, the world's been awakening. I think ever since 2020, like I think a good amount of the population does not like the reality that we're living in. They are realizing that we're in a clown world right now. And so, I guess there's a calling, or there is, certain souls are ready to come out and start practicing this. I think this is the fastest way to find the truth possible. And once you get like something that solidified and made me happy and confirmed to me that I'm doing the right thing is because I realized the soul doesn't die. And in my religion, they teach, in my old religion, they teach that the soul dies, when the physical body dies. And so, when you have an experience like that, it just wakes you up to the fact that like there's life after death. This physical body isn't you. You are a part of you still lives, and a part of you is actually experiencing things that like that are unimaginable in the best way, the way life is supposed to be. And the more I learn about it, the more I learn from you, like you go into these realms. That's like, I'm like, man, this just brings a whole new meaning to life. That's all I can say. Like it's a whole
yeah,
new meaning.
yeah, it does. It's the reason why I'm so motivated to teach people because, like everybody else that has success with the out of body state,
Yeah.
someone like you and everybody else that does this now, you are a true empowered soul. Like there, like from this point, if we've never communicated again, and it's just whatever, you have the ability and the know of how to leave your body and access information for yourself, and that
Hmm.
becomes the most empowering thing that a soul could do because they become fully empowered. They step into their power, and they're no longer dependent on somebody else to give them information because every soul has the ability to access all this stuff, and that's the most important thing in the
Yeah.
in part of the great work because it shifts your perspective in such a way that no one else could do it for you besides you seeing it for yourself, and
Hmm.
that's the yeah.
That's the beauty of it. And dude, I appreciate you so much for doing the great work. And I don't know where this is gonna be posted. I have no problems with it, but as long as somebody's, if you're somebody that's looking for the truth, and that is just that's gone through things, this is one of the best practices to, or the best ways to do it, just period. There's all these uh, what I been empowered is in knowing what is there giving you fear and what is there not giving you fear. And anything, fear is like, is the controller of this. It's the only way to control people in this plane. And when I learned that from you, like that was one of the things that I just said, like, hey, I gotta face some fears. And it is one of those things, like, you know, a lot of people, they listen to all these conspiracies and they believe, you know, believe in them, but they're not willing to put in the work to get over their fears, to get into the out of body experience, you know, or get into that. I've talked to people and they're just not ready for it. So you start seeing how you know, anybody who is actively practicing this, like, you got to realize that you're being brave. You're one of the select few that is willing to go through that, and it's commendable. So, you know, I just appreciate you, my brother, and appreciate anybody that is going through this, and I look forward to meeting them out there soon. Who knows, in some sort of realm. Like, let's make it
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah. The only recommendations that I would give you now, and just,
Mhm.
you know, support, is, now that you've had those experiences, just move a little bit more past fear, like, or like any anxiety. Like,
Mhm.
when you see like an opening like that, a dimensional opening like that, I would take it, because that would be something then to show you more. It may feel like you're getting sucked somewhere, but when you're there, you could be accessing different realms within this construct, or even outside of it completely. So yeah,
Nice. That's awesome, man.
yeah,
I just feel like I would have some funny
yeah.
characters, man. You know, but like I
Most of
heard,
them, yeah, most of them
yeah,
appear. Yeah, go.
yeah,
Yeah,
what?
most of them appear in robes to me.
Yeah.
So that's why I said, like, you may get beings presenting themselves to you. If you were in a state of fear, it would put you in absolute panic, because
Mhm.
some of them don't necessarily look like, you know, an average human. They have humanoid structure, but they're different. They're taller, bigger. The presence fills the entire room, you know.
Mhm.
So, and if you're in a state of that fear already, then it's just what the being was there for, to present information or contact, or someone that you've known from the other side. You will prevent that by placing walls and pushing yourself back in your body, and having to start the process over, if you know, choose to. So yeah,
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 absolutely. Yeah, that's been one of the things that, of course, one of the fears. I want to meet them. I just have like and it happens every night too. Like, and I'm not saying that I've conquered all of my fear. You know, um, there was no presences in that fourth OBE, but like I actively try to talk. You know, before I get into the IDA method. Um, I actively try to talk to whatever being or whatever is presented, because um, I've I've felt them in the room before as I'm waking up. They are definitely watching me right now. So they've been you know, they've been looking at my. I think the more you pop out, that's one thing. The more you pop out, the more you will start like having them around, because they're really excited. I've
yeah,
heard somebody just straight up say hi. You know, like in my waking up, that between awake and you know, sleep and awake period in the morning, just straight up clear as day say hi, and it's a woman presence, you know. So interesting stuff, man. And again, like I have a lot to say. You're probably gonna have to chop this into like part one, part two, part three. But dude,
no,
I really appreciate you, you know, allowing me to share this experience, and I hope it helps a lot of people.
yeah, me too. This messages like this, success stories like this, is only going to help more people to get over the fear aspect of it, you know.
Hmm.
So, and
Absolutely.
that's important. It's really important. But
Yeah.
I do want to say this before you jump off. Something that you
Mhm.
said, the fear thing, right?
Yeah.
That your core of it was judgment. Yeah,
Judgment. Yes.
being judged, and that's
Being
something
judged.
that's very aggressively indoctrinated into people that are in religion, that they're going to be judged.
Hmm.
And something that you could just, you know, you're already over it, but, you know, for other people, because you've stated, I wanted to bring it up, for other people that have that, is you cannot have unconditional love with a judgment. So
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's one of those things. There is a lot of program, like, you know, what you realize is that there's a lot of programming in religion. And it's not to say that these, like you mentioned a lot when you gone out, like there's some truths, but there's a lot of distortion in it. And that judgment of, just from the beginning, I've realized that an awakened dormant ability that I've seen that's starting to bleed through is definitely the fact that there's a lot of, I came here with a group of friends. I don't know what's going on or what that whole purpose is, but some of our are interdimensional, some of them are here because I have been in spaces that I can't explain whether they're a dream or they're a reality. We could talk about that way more later down the road, but the thing is, it's having, when you're indoctrinated into a religion like that and they tell you everything's demonic, things like this is demonic, demonic. They use that word in this has a quick snap to like get out of your process of awakening those abilities. And I think the IDA method is, hey, you're not only going to have an out of body experiences, but you're also going to have intuitive experiences as well. You're going to be able to discern things, and you're going to discern truth in this density. And that's the key thing that I've kind of walked away with this, getting over that judgment and that fear from religion and deprogramming from that into this practice. It's having the ability to find the truth for yourself and not worry about that judgment of you doing something that you're not supposed to.
Yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? Right? They try to deter you from doing that which you should be doing. Don't do that. That's bad. And then when you do it, you realize, wait a second, that's the eternal aspect of where I came from. How is that bad? Yeah. So it's
exactly. One of the things that I was exploring, from or that I realized in doing the IDA method, it's just extremely direct in the process. I have read books from like Robert Monroe, from William Bowman. These are people that they teach the out of body experiences. They also charge a lot of money for you to go to a live class to learn this stuff. But the method is just extremely direct. You don't have to use a rope method to get out of your body. I mean, you have that as you start feeling loose, but just going through, you don't I thought I needed to have really fancy frequencies that cost a lot of money to be able to have my brain sink into a laser and get me out of body. But this was extremely simple. This is like, hey, a binary beat, 90 minutes long, very specific, and the directions are clear as day. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. No meditations to get yourself up and running, and this is very calm. It's very direct.
Yeah, it's I think a lot of things like that are overly complicated. Typically things that are overly complicated don't, I'll let people figure that out for themselves, but it's not necessarily the direct path, because simplicity is what makes success. If you overcomplicate things, it's just.
I mentioned that in a group before about reaching sleep paralysis, and the woman was like, "Why would you do that? You get the vibrations first." And I'm like, the vibrations are important. They happen, but they don't happen to everybody, right? But when you're in sleep paralysis, it's either you're waking up into it.
You cannot deny it. Yeah.
Exactly.
You're there.
So you're there. You're just like, you're like, okay, hey, I'm awake. All right, I'm gonna start doing this. There's a sensation, but you kind of remember. It kind of becomes intuitive. It's as you're doing this, the person I just met recently, you know, they just knew that they were doing something, and they just followed the steps as they were coming out. So it's like you have this in you. This is a part of almost every human being on this planet. It's just
Yeah,
a
a lot of
matter of just being simple.
yeah, a lot of people ask me like, could everybody do this? And that's like, everybody has the physical body. So say for instance, the physical body, the anatomy of the body, everybody has similar, right? We have the
Mhm,
skeleton system, muscle, organs. If things weren't similar, then doctors wouldn't be able to, you know, fix things surgically, anyways. So
mhm.
everybody has a soul as well. And
Yeah,
even though we're all different expressions, everybody has a soul. So to say that it's just unique to one person, then they have already forgotten that we all share the same abilities and gifts and capabilities as well. So
mhm,
the soul is who we really are. Taking that out of the body is not
absolutely.
a special thing to a certain select individuals. That's
Yeah,
what that's what people would want you to believe, but that's not true.
absolutely, man.
Yeah.
And that's a key thing right there. So, um, just keep it simple,
Yeah.
and you'll have these experiences, man, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. Thanks again, dude. Thanks for sharing
Thank
them.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.